Hello there, welcome back to another episode of This and That. And in today's video, we are going to talk about a couple of fragrances from the house of Fragrance World. Now, these are actually two flankers of the same series, and I only knew about one. And I'm quite sure that you heard the first one, but not about the second one. So today, we are going to talk about one, Aqua Pura. Now, this is quite popular. You must have heard about this, especially with the absence of Atlas in the market. I'm sure that's recommended a lot. But did you know that there was also another fragrance called as Pura Pura from the same house? In fact, it's a similar flanker series. And this was a very interesting find for me because one of my vendors had it and I was quite surprised this even existed, right? So I've been testing it out, trying it out to understand what the scent profile is and what is their performance and should I even recommend this fragrance to you, right? So if this is the type of content that you kind of like, then definitely hit the notifications icon to get to know about new videos that come along. And if you do like my work, then definitely hit the subscribe icon as well. And both of them are added on to decants, so you can definitely try them out as well. And before you do a blind buy of these fragrances. So let's get into this review without further ado and get connected right after this intro. Alright, welcome back, and let's quickly first talk about Aqua Pura. Okay, now the Aqua Pura basically comes in a box like this, and it's a very basic brown colored box, very decent. This bottle, however, is a very beautiful one, and it will remind you of a very popular niche fragrance. Now, this is a 70%, 70 ml bottle, okay, not a 100 ml or not a 50 ml, but a 70 ml. And the reason for that is the fragrance from which this is inspired from comes only in a 50 ml volume. Okay, now this is a marine, sweet, musky, ambroxan heavy kind of a fragrance with a lot of aquatic marine vibe. This is a fragrance that's actually very, very loud in terms of its musk and ambroxan note, but has a bit of a sweet nuance to it. Beautiful fragrance, especially if you are looking for a bright, aquatic, marine type of a fragrance. Minus the less salty accords to it, but more on the lightly sweeter side, lightly on the ambroxan side, lightly on the muskier side. You will absolutely enjoy this fragrance because it smells really, really good in the air. It smells fresh, it brightens up your spirit, and it's one of those fragrances that is actually very, very long lasting in terms of how the sillage works, because the DNA itself of the Aqua Pura is actually very, very nice. So that way you actually get quite a long lasting, fresh, aquatic, bright sun, outdoor kind of a fragrance. What makes this one a very nice fragrance is the addition of seaweed. Okay, now because of the seaweed, which has this green color vibe to it, and it's also an aquatic vibe to it, along with a little bit of a chemical induced components like hedoine, cologne, makes it a more of a sea salt accord kind of a fragrance. Also has a little bit of an ambre element to it as well, but primarily you will get this sweet, salty, citrusy, and a good amount of aquatic vibe. The citrus elements are literally quite less, but it's blended well, so you do kind of have that freshness out of it. Overall, a very beautiful fragrance, this one, that you can consider. This, if you're not aware, is an alternative of the popular niche fragrance Orthoparesis Megamar. Okay, now Megamar itself is very, very expensive. Costs about 10,000 rupees, close to, I think, above that for the 50 ml. And this is good in terms of the projection and performance. So in terms of projection, this will actually do about 45 to 50 minutes of projection. Performance, this will do about 4 hours to 5 hours, roughly is what I would say. Lightly sweeter when compared to the other alternatives that are there in the market. But if you're looking for an alternative of Orthoparesis Megamar, you could consider fragrances like Albate's Megabear, which I think is the best alternative aside to the Latafa Atlas, which is one of the nicest ones to have. Probably the best one to have is the Latafa Atlas. If you can't afford that, then definitely you should also consider getting Ibrahim Al Qureshi's Spanish tobacco as well. And then there is one from, I think, Pandora Sense called Megatron or Megaron. I'm not entirely sure how that is. I have used this for quite some time, maybe about more than a year's time. I've had this. This is one of the nice fragrances to definitely have. If you cannot find Atlas, if you have Atlas already, then you don't need to consider this. If you do not have Atlas, you can consider getting this because this will be about 1650, 1750, that kind of a ballpark figure for a 70 ml, which is pretty good considering the fact that you get a nice fragrance. If not, you can also consider Ibrahim Al Qureshi's Spanish tobacco, which I think is a very value for money, and that you do about 3-4 sprays, you get an entire a full day lasting kind of a fragrance. You can check out my Ibrahim Al Qureshi's French Tobacco series fragrances for that detailed review. All right. The next one here is called the Cuero Pura, okay, or rather Cuero Pura, and this comes in a similar box like this. The only difference is here you will find a leather kind of emblem, okay, whereas on this you would find basically the tree icon that you would see in Ortho Paris's Megamer. One of the things that they've done in the Aqua Pura is that you will notice that this color is green. The cap color is green. The liquid is greenish as well. Similar or very reminiscent of the Ortho Paris's bottle cap design as well. On this one, you will notice that the juice is dark brown in color. So is the cap as well. And this it will indicate to you that it's a fragrance that's derived its inspiration from a beautiful leather fragrance, okay, and that's the idea behind the Cuero Pura. Now the Cuero Pura actually has a good amount of spicy elements. It has a lot of animalic vibe to it. It has a lot of spicier elements to it as well, and then it also has a surprisingly good amount of vanilla to it, which comes much later into the fragrance, but smells actually very, very nice. Now surprisingly, this is good in a way to say that when you put this on, you do enjoy a very beautiful aroma of leather. That's the most dominant note that you see. And leather here is not the suede leather, which is soft, soft in projections, pleasant. This is animalic leather, so it is got that tart animalic vibe that you typically get in good, strong leather fragrances. The only thing that I wish was it stood strong. Unfortunately, that's not the case. But from a scent profile point of view, it opens with that animalic leathery vibe. It goes through a little bit of a sweet orange, spicier elements, and a little bit of the peppercorn kind of a vibe as well. And it also has some amount of cade oil. It has some frankincense. It has those smokier elements to make leather uplifting. But what I really like is underneath all of these layers, there's a lovely hint of vanilla or a kind of a sweet woody element, okay? And primarily it's either vanilla or it's some kind of a Mysore sandalwood type of a vibe that you kind of get. And that element is nice. Now, the only thing that I did not like of this fragrance is its performance. For a leather fragrance, I was actually expecting it to be rocking really hard, okay? To be projecting really, really good for a long time and lasting really long time as well. But surprisingly, that's not the case. This will do about 30 to 40 minutes of projection. During that point of time, it's pretty nice. And then it softens up and you will probably get about 1 to 1.5 feet of projection that way. And lasting wise also, surprisingly, about 4 hours is what I kept getting all throughout the time that I've been testing it out. I did get it because, like I said, I didn't know this even existed, and I thought this should be a very interesting fragrance because this is an alternative of the Ortho Paris's QOM. So QOM is also a leather fragrance, and this is inspired from that. I initially thought this was going to be a Terroni alternative, which is also, I think, a leather-based fragrance, but this is an alternative of the QOM from the house of Ortho Parisi as well. It is a similar type of a fragrance, but I haven't tried the QOM. I have tried Megamer, but QOM I haven't tried, but the DNA is pretty interesting. Now, another very interesting that I found about this fragrance is that this reminded me of a very popular Middle Eastern fragrance from the house of Ahmed al-Maghrabi, the Ignite Oud. Now, for a long time, a lot of you have been thinking what Ignite Oud is inspired from. And I can tell you, and knowing this DNA and understanding Ignite Oud's DNA, Ignite Oud is definitely inspired from QOM of Ortho Paris's because it has that similar leather vibe, it has that similar sandalwood vibe in the dry down. All of those elements are very, very similar. The only thing is Ignite Oud really, is projecting, long lasting, works really well. Obviously it's a 60 ml with I think close to about 40% of oil concentration, and fragrance world fragrances are generally much lower in terms of concentration. And somehow for me, I've always not had a very great luck with fragrance world perfumes. Some of them work very well for many people, but for me somehow it's a hit or a miss. And for me this is probably slightly a miss, whereas Aqua Pura is definitely a hit one. Okay, so yes, those are the two fragrances, and those are how they are differentiated by their scent profile. So if you've been looking for alternates of the orthoparesis, megamer or QAM, then you can definitely consider getting them to understand how the DNA works as such. I do have them on decants if you want to try them and explore how these fragrances smell, and if you think you should get a full bottle of it. If you are somebody who likes Ignite Oud DNA and you want a fragrance that you could wear to office, okay, or some social gathering where it doesn't project as loud as Ignite Oud, but you still get that similar vibe of leather and sandalwood, then yes, Pura Pura makes that definite cut, because it is softer in nature. You do get about 4 to 5 hours, 4 hours of performance, you can say. So that way it is good, okay. But if you are somebody who looks at fragrances that should have long-lasting performance and project much better as a leather fragrance should definitely do, then of course get Ignite Oud, because that's definitely better. All right, so that is all I thought about this particular review. And if you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe and share, and I'll see you on another one. Until another time, take care. Bye bye.